How's it going, everyone? It's Artifact story time today. I'm going to tell you how I found my passion in music, like where it all started for me. And the reason I'm going to tell you this is because someone asked me this yesterday evening, and I kind of thought about it for a while and really consolidated how I sort of got into music and into music production. And it all starts back with this sign behind me, which you might have seen from my YouTube videos, which is my Led Zeppelin neon sign, because this is like the key moment where I really discovered my passion for music in general. I watched this film called School of Rock with Jack Black. I was a kid at the time, but I absolutely loved this movie. The reason why I loved it was because of the soundtrack, right? It had tracks by like AC/DC and Led Zeppelin. And as soon as I finished watching this movie, like I was an only child, so I've always been like a bit of an introvert myself. Yeah, I kind of like went straight up to my little room on my computer, and back then I was using like LimeWire to like download music like illegally. Don't tell YouTube, but yeah, so I downloaded every single Led Zeppelin song after watching that film, because I was like, I heard Immigrant Song, this that riff, I just absolutely loved it. Downloaded every single individual Led Zeppelin song on LimeWire that evening from like 7 p.m. until 4 a.m. in the morning or something. And I categorized each download because the file types are all wrong and the names were all wrong. I went on Wikipedia, found the track listing for each album, and then I made my own folders of the albums and renamed every individual like song. Later on, I realized that was completely a waste of time because you can just download a whole discography already done for you. But for some reason, I thought that I had to do every song individually, listening to like each individual song as I was downloading it and being like, whoa, like what is this? Because I thought like the sound design of their kind of music was so amazing. It was like nothing I'd really heard before, like the way that like the reverb on the guitars and the distortion and kind of huge sound, like, you know, like when the levee breaks, if you listen to that, like the drums on that, they're just like, how can you make these drums sound like I'm in front of like a huge levee that's about to fucking like come at me, and these drums are just like huge. And that's when I really discovered that I don't need anything else in life other than this, like me, my own little world, listening to music. And that's where I kind of had that kind of moment where I was like, this is like absolutely what I'm destined not to do, but this is like what I actually love like the most out of anything. And then after that, I always wanted to be a musician somehow, but I just suck at like all instruments. So I tried guitar, sucked at it. I can play a bit of keyboard, but generally I kind of suck. Tried emceeing as well, and I really sucked at that. Yeah, I just kind of sucked at everything. And yeah, tried to do a bit of music production, and I kind of sucked at that at the start as well. I had to go to university and I didn't know what else to study, and I didn't want to study something I wasn't really that into, like economics or a normal subject. I kind of wanted the university experience to just be like fun for me. So I thought, you know, what can I do and where can I go as well? So I went to Brighton, obviously a very musical city in England. I was going to study music production. Hopefully I can just make some drum and bass, because I was into drum and bass at the time because I'm from Kent and it's like a big kind of scene there. Like all the older boys were always like into drum and bass and MCing, so I kind of got influenced by Skibbity, Shabbity and all that kind of stuff. I always really loved how fast it was, and how they still got these really cool rhythms and grooves like in a music which is so fast, so complex. So I thought that was really interesting as well. I digress. Yeah, so I went to University of Brighton and studied digital music and sound art. I didn't really know if I was going to do it as a job or anything, but I just kind of used the excuse to party and make drum and bass like for fun. When I got to my final year and I did my dissertation, I had to do a 3-track EP. I had no idea if it was going to be any good or not. I started listening to like Noisia at this time, like Split the Atom album, so I just kind of tried to copy some of their sounds. Like Program was like one of the sort of main songs that influenced me. I wrote this song called Premonition, which was like heavily inspired by like Program. Didn't sound that much like it, but like the sound design was quite similar, like this kind of dark, ominous, almost like cinematic sound design with these kind of like heavy chugging neurofunk basses. And that's kind of where that kind of started, that neurofunk part of me sort of began, and where I kind of stuck with that. I didn't know what it was like, but I got a lot of feedback from other students when I handed in my EP. All the other students in the university could listen to it, and people were messaging me like on SoundCloud and stuff afterwards, being like, whoa man, you're like, that's amazing, like you should keep that up. And my professor as well at the time, he was like really, really strict and harsh with me. My professors did actually say that I was talented, but I just wasn't like properly doing it right yet, but they said that I did have a talent for it. So I was like, okay, so I have got some kind of talent for music production. So I thought I'll just carry on. Anyway, I'm rambling a bit here, but basically that's kind of how my passion started all all the way back with School of Rock. I kind of realise now, after going into, like, because of lockdown, I never planned to do, like, teaching. When lockdown started, my career was just about to sort of take off internationally on a DJ kind of circuit, because I got signed to a booking agency. I had, like, tours booked in like Portugal, all around Germany, Ukraine, like a few other places in Europe as well. Like, kind of just starting, and then COVID was like, nah, see you later, mate. But I didn't really care, because I had all this momentum from doing social media and like releasing music before that anyway. So I was just like, how can I translate this to something else? I'm always thinking, like, this is my passion. Like, I don't care what anyone thinks. Like, I don't care what anyone like tells me to do. I don't care if I'm going to be on the streets. Like, this is what I do. You know, I'll find some way to make it work. That's kind of the mentality that I think you need. It's just like parents, friends, school, elders, everything they say, I'm just like, yeah. They're like, yeah, you need to get a real job so you can. I'm just like, yeah. Secretly, I'm like, no, I'm good. No, I'm going to do. So going back, digressing again. So when COVID happened, I had all this momentum anyway. So I was like, I'm just going to get straight into like Patreon and tutorials. And then shortly after that, I was like bang on, like doing the one-on-one teaching. And then that kind of reinvigorated a like new passion I didn't even know that I had. When people message you and tell you that you've helped them so much, they like really are so thankful. Like, that's way more interesting than when you get an email saying that you got like a PayPal transaction or something like that. Like, that emotion of actually helping people is like way more like valuable. That's kind of what made me carry on doing that. But then now thinking back to like School of Rock, where it all kind of started, like the reason why the film was also so wicked was because Jack Black, like, I think he's funny as fuck, like legendary dude, but like obviously he's acting in the film, but like he's got all these students that are like really low confidence and low self-esteem, like just bored playing like classical music, and he's just like jumping around being an idiot, which is kind of a bit what I do on Instagram a lot of the time, and like getting them up and motivating them to like make music. Didn't really bridge that connection until like last night, and I was thinking like, yeah, that's actually even more like why School of Rock was really influential to me, I guess, because not only did it start my passion for like really interesting like sound design because of the particular kind of rock music that I heard on that soundtrack, but also, you know, that joy that you get from teaching someone by bringing out the talents of them and bringing up their motivation so they like feel good to express like their musical talent. Yeah, just rocking around rather than doing boring classical stuff. But to be honest, I listen to classical music all the time and I love it, so against that. Anyway, that's kind of like a little bit of a background story. I know this is not a synthesis video today, so I'm very sorry if you're expecting that. I'll be doing a live stream tonight though for 1 hour, like a music production live stream at 7 p.m. CET, so come along on YouTube and watch that, and we can do some Q&A as well. We're working on a new remix that I have to do. Also, just feel free to chat and I can stop producing and talk to you, answer any questions about music production knowledge, because I'm pretty much an open book at this point. Thanks for listening, and let me know down below how you got into music, like how your passion started, like if you can remember like one specific moment or point where you were like, yeah, this is what I love to do because it's just awesome. All right guys, peace.